Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to the BlockCrunch podcast, the go-to podcast for investors and builders in crypto. This episode is also brought to you by PARASWAP. Stick around to learn more. This episode is also sponsored by the Hbar Foundation. This episode is also brought to you by notional.finance. I like to use notional.finance to get transparent, fixed-rate borrowing and lending on Ethereum. The upgraded and easy-to-use V2 with token and liquidity mining is also live now at notional.finance/blockcrunch. So stick around to learn more. All right, so welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Now, this week, we have a very special joint production with a new show that I'm really fond of called I Pledge Allegiance, hosted by Derek Hsue, the co-founder of a company that I'm proud to be an investor in as well, called Reverie. So, Derek, why don't you say hi and tell us all about I Pledge Allegiance?
Thanks, Jason. It's great to work with you on this podcast. For those that don't know, I Pledge Allegiance is a new podcast focused on specific governance discussions, proposals, and debates. And this week we have Jai and Choi from Tribe and Rari, and we're here to chat about the super fascinating merger proposal that's been posted in the past few weeks.
Yeah, so this specific proposal between the Fei Protocol and the Rari Protocol is probably one of the most ambitious things I've seen in crypto. And I think we have seen similar proposals before to merge two protocols, but never of this size because Fei itself is a $500 million protocol. Rari is a $500 million protocol as well. So to combine both protocols of this magnitude and two communities that have been around for years, it's a huge undertaking. So before we dive into it, I'd love to kind of just get a sense of what this protocol, what this proposal actually is. And Joey and Jay, feel free to kind of take it wherever.
Yeah, so I'm happy to start here. Like, this proposal is basically a way to kind of incentive align the Fei and Rari communities to sort of act as one. And by having one single token, it allows the communities to focus, incentive align on specific product offerings. For context, like Fei is a stablecoin protocol that uses a protocol controlled value mechanism. And Rari is a lot of things. They have a very diverse group of core contributors, but their primary product at the moment is Fuse, and Jay can talk more about that. And there are a lot of product synergies, as well as team culture synergies and ways that we can build together. So the proposal is to merge the two projects under one banner, under one token.
Awesome. Yeah, just echoing what Joey said, I think that there are two main things that this comes down to for me. It's half on the protocol side of things and half on the product synergies right now. And then the other half is on the team and the future, right? So to dive deep onto this, right, you have Fuse, which is this extremely powerful lending and borrowing protocol that Fei has already started allocating capital into at scale, right? This collaboration is going to enable us to double down on that and really bring the protocols to even closer together, right? And that's going to be really cool. And then on the other half of things, you have what is really the future, right? You're combining two supercharged teams and going to be able to really create some really cool. So to me, this deal is about three separate things, right? It's about the network effects that you get by combining RGT and Tribe, each of our communities, each of our products. 2, supercharged contributor set, right? It's about this Fei team is kick-ass. Rari team is also kick-ass. What happens when you put all of these amazing smart people in a room together, right? Like, yes, all of the network effects and all the crazy things that we've already talked about are what we can do right now, but what we can do tomorrow is even more exciting. And then the last piece to me is about the protocol synergies, right? About what we can do together with Fei, right? We've already been able to, I think that currently Fei is deploying like millions of dollars into the Fuse protocol today and into the Rari platform holistically. Imagine what happens when we're able to double down on all of these initiatives and really bring our communities together, bring our networks together, and one day hopefully verticalize all of DeFi within the Tribe ecosystem and family.
And for those of us that aren't as familiar with Tribe and Rari, like historically, how have you guys worked together? Why do you think you work together so well? And whose idea was this to merge?
Why don't I take the first half of that one, and then maybe Jake could take the second half. So in terms of how we've worked together, I consider from the Fei side, the Rari partnership has been far and away our most engaged relationship. We were the first DAO-owned Fuse pool, and we immediately began providing a ton of capital there. And then soon later, um, we were the first protocol to do liquidity mining incentives on top of their pool, on top of the FeiRari Fuse pool. It's pool 8. And that's led the pool to become the third largest pool by TVL. In addition, Fei's supplied in, 8 of the top 10 pools, and soon to be all 10 of them. And many other pools throughout the protocol. Almost a quarter of all Fuse pools, you have Fei, and the Fei DAO has been providing tens of millions of dollars in capital, soon to be hundreds of millions or billions, to the ecosystem. So from our side, it's a really slam dunk collaboration, and it's always wonderful working with the team. We're working on some pretty cool other protocol level upgrades as well to help enhance the Fuse platform and provide more utility for Fei and just Fuse in general. And Jay can say whose idea it was if he wants to tell that story.
Yeah, I mean, first I was gonna just tack on the fact that like Fuse has this historically chicken and egg problem, right? You start a new Fuse pool, it's hard to attract stablecoin liquidity for people to borrow against, and Fei came in quickly and solved that problem. And on the counter side, right, stablecoins like historically suffer with adoption, right? There have been stablecoins that have been around for years that have no utility, and Fei has been able to like put themselves in at the center of the Fuse platform and create natural utility and usage of the stablecoin. So the collaboration has been awesome on both sides of things. As for how this really began is honestly one day I just called Joey and I was like, "Hey Joey, I have this idea. What are your thoughts on it?" And it was like 8 a.m. during like we were under fire at Rari, right? We thought a bunch of stuff was going wrong, and I was like, "Joey, like give me your thoughts on this. Like also, what are your thoughts about this?" He's like, "Jay, like this is really cool. Let me get back to you." And then next thing we know, we're like, "Oh my goodness, this could be really really cool." And it's almost like the virus was implanted in our heads. And from that moment on, we couldn't let it go, and we were like, "This is something that needs to happen."
That's a fascinating story. I think, yeah, it makes a ton of sense looking at you guys from the outside and the synergies that already exist with the product, and the fact that I think the teams have a personal relationship. Um, Joey, you guys posted on the Rari forums about a week ago, and Jai posted as well on Fei's forums. How's feedback been broadly from the communities?
Yeah, I mean, this proposal is a pretty epic one that has far-reaching consequences for our communities and for DeFi as a whole. So you can imagine that everyone came out of the woodwork to share their thoughts, and it has been really incredible to see so many smart people that we respect so much come up with such different ideas about whether this is a good idea, a bad idea, how to implement it. So I would say that, as usual with governance proposals that are high profile, there's some people who are really for it. There's some people who are really against it, and those people are the loudest. And I think that there's a lot of people who are just excited to kind of see what happens and aren't really decided one way or another. And that's pretty much my take on the feedback.
For me, I feel like the reaction was just a lot of confusion, quite honestly. When me and Joey put up the proposals, it was like I feel like we were leaving a lot more questions unsaid than we were actually answering. So the community took that and they were like, "Oh my goodness, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my bags? What does this mean for the products that I use every single day?" And I think that the community was so outspoken is the most exciting part because it means that these are products, these are communities that they're actually invested in, right? Them being outspoken about it means that they actually care about it. So now to like for what that means for us moving forward is it means that we have a lot of questions to answer, a lot of communities to overlap, and it's going to be really really exciting.
Yeah, and I'm really curious in terms of the community feedback. Is the what are some of the major questions they raise? Are people mostly interested or concerned about how the tokens will kind of merge into one, or are they concerned about how the products or the culture of the different communities will merge into one?
Yeah, I think I'm happy to speak from kind of the Fei community side. There was a lot of really great, I think, feedback and maybe even like criticisms of the proposal. I would say that the two largest sticking points for people were generally around like why do a full token merge versus just either treasury swap or potentially even like forking Fuse and developing in-house? And my answer to, well, I mean, on it, like obviously I'm in favor of the proposal, right? And so I think it's very reasonable to kind of like paint the community, some of the criticism, some of the benefits, and kind of like talk on both sides. So regarding the why not just do a treasury swap? I mean, this is a totally viable thing that probably would have happened anyway if Jay didn't call me and say, "Yo, let's consider merging our communities," because we do work so well together. So in my mind, that's a logical thing to do. Nothing would really change much. We would continue to integrate with Fuse. We would continue to be strong partners. But the way to really take it to the next level, really change DeFi, that would involve something a bit more, like a full merge, right? And regarding the acquisition price or, why don't we just fork it and build it in house? Well, we could definitely not compete with the Rari team. That's for sure. I don't think that there's a team on the planet that could compete with the Rari team. And so it'd be suicide to divide our focus and try and fork Fuse. So instead, why don't you just acquire the brand, the product, and the team all at once? And to me, the the price, while relevant, isn't like the primary determining factor of whether that's a good idea or not. Um, and and then the last criticism, which I think is by far the most valid one, is what does this mean for your product focus? Because right now it's obvious what Fei is. It's a stable coin. It's a fully decentralized stable coin, DeFi native, backed by protocol controlled value. And there's a question of, do we lose that identity or do we lose that focus if we start to become kind of a sushi style product suite? And the answer to that is that, what we're doing is fundamentally taking, if the merge goes through, is that we're taking the gamble that the synergies and the network effects of growing together are going to be so much stronger than what we could do with focus and isolation. And that's pretty much, I think, that the spectrum. There's obviously a lot more nuanced opinions, but those were kind of the broad themes that I heard from the community, and they all really make sense. And like, it's not black or white, but these are kind of just like their thoughts, some of my responses, just for everyone to hear.
And how do you think about engaging with the various stakeholders that have voiced their opinions, whether it's responding on the forums or sort of talking about it in public forums like a Twitter space? Like, how do you see the progression for this proposal going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think one thing that me and Joey have both emphasized is having a lot of these communications on open and transparent forums, right? So whether that means the Rari Capital forums, the Tribe, Fei forums, or even on the Twitter spaces, one theme that you'll notice there's it's completely open to everybody, right? Whether you're a small token holder or a big whale, right? Everybody should have access to the same amount of information as everybody else. And the cool thing about doing this is we've seen rise to multiple stakeholders who are helping the merger happen now, right? So you have Reverie, you have Llama, you have GFX Labs, right? All three amazing independent parties, each helping facilitate the merger in various different ways. This is something that you couldn't just have happen in the traditional world, right? Usually you'd need to go share your books, you'd need to go share your information, you need to go share your entire balance sheets. But because of the nature of DeFi and working so transparently and openly, we can do some really cool stuff. And the merger really it was just an idea pitched by me and Joey. And now it's up to the community and these stakeholders who are invested to go and make it happen, which I'm really excited to help and support.
Yeah, and before I jump in, Joey, any thoughts on there as well?
No, I just echo what Jay says. It's really about like trying to source everyone's feedback, really commit to the decentralization of the decision, and make sure that it's clear that this is not a done deal as much as the core teams think it would be a cool idea. It's really about how can we try to do what's best for our respective protocols, and it involves everyone's feedback. So that's pretty much the path we've taken.
Yeah, and I really love how you guys embodied the spirit of building an open, basically publicizing everything from day one and collecting feedback from everybody, good or bad feedback, regardless. I think that that is really the spirit of what DeFi is about, kind of that transparency and that community building. And in terms of the logistics of the thing, with something of this magnitude, what are the steps to actually implement? So, are you logistically, are you kind of combining the Discord channels first? Are you kind of trying to combine some of the smart contracts, or what are the steps that you need to actually take to ship something like this?
Yeah, there are a lot of different pieces to shipping something like this, obviously, right? So I think the first thing is that this isn't just gonna happen right away. We're not just all gonna pack up and go and enter a new Discord and suddenly all be on the same website, right? We're gonna keep two independent communities, right? There's gonna be the Fei community, there's gonna be the Rari community, assuming that this merger passes, and we'll all be under this greater tribe family, right? And the cooler thing about being part of this greater tribe family, and I alluded to this earlier, is this means that shared resources, shared incentives, shared everything happens right away. Right. And then in terms of operationally moving forward, what it means is that tribe token holders will be in charge of really everything inside of the Rari capital ecosystem, inside of the Fei ecosystem, and maybe over a macro perspective, these communities will converge on one another. That remains to be seen. And really that's at the community's discretion. But what I can tell you is this is going to be really cool, right? It's almost like you have two superpowered communities combining under one brand, uniting under one alliance, and doing so in an incentive aligned way. And I'm really excited for what that means for the tribe token.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is going to be. I think that the part that Jay just mentioned regarding like merging communities and kind of the more social layer, that's going to be the more challenging part. When you talk about what's going to happen on chain, or at least how it's been proposed so far, is basically the RGT token and the tribe token, there would be some peg exchange rate that's determined. And then any RGT holder can come in at any time and turn their RGT into tribe. Um, and then simultaneously with the opening of this PEG contract, you would have all of their governance basically hand over rights to the tribe token. So the RGT token becomes uh, not like useless, but like effectively it wouldn't have governance power, and it would still maintain its value because it's pegged to tribe. So people who are holding it as collateral and stuff don't need to worry about their positions. And this is why we did something like this over like a Merkle drop. But but yeah, like I think that this is the mechanism proposed, and it should be pretty clean if it works. And then we'll see if the community has any other ideas for additional mechanisms to help make the proposal more, you know, ideal for both sides. There's been a lot of different ideas and nuances floated around, but I think trying to keep it simple is definitely best.
There's been some there's been some posts on the forums, especially on the Rari side, about sort of concerns around dilution, and to what you said, Joey, around like figuring how to figure out specific pricing. Um, could you guys talk a little bit about like how the Rari token holders should think about it from their standpoint?
Yeah, I can tell you how I'm thinking about it. And I can't speak to any other token holders here. But what I will say is that what we're doing is yes, everyone here will face dilution. But the bigger thing to emphasize is this idea of 1 + 1 = 3, right? And that the pie that we will be creating together is going to be much bigger than the pie that we could create independently. And I think that's the most exciting piece. Is this isn't just going to stop at lending and borrowing protocol or just a stable coin. Is the tribe asset will really embody DeFi itself, and how does that actually manifest remains to be seen. But it's going to be it's going to be something that's really interesting to see. So I think TLDR, just it's going to be a bigger pie altogether.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo that like it's not about what is being lost, which is like sovereign control over a single thing, but it's about what's being gained. It's like shared control over two really powerful like protocols that are even more powerful together, like 1 + 1 = 3, like Jay said. So the most positive way to frame it is not, oh, I'm getting diluted. It's like, oh my gosh, now tribe gets to do twice as much stuff, soon to be 3 times as much stuff, and you have a pro rata part of that ownership. And yeah, these two really strong communities coming together, um, that you could feel like safe in the fact that it's like more decentralized, more stakeholders, more opportunities. That's kind of the framing that takes us in the most positive possible light.
And just so for the people who are holding the Rari token, the RGT token out there, how does the conversion actually work? Are they kind of sending it to a burn contract and then receiving Tribe or Fei in return? And where does that Tribe token come from?
Yeah, I mean, I could take this. It's pretty simple. Basically, the tribe that, or when RGT holders send their tokens into the PEG contract, that RGT would be escrowed there, effectively burned. We actually haven't really talked about what happens to the RGT token. We might be able to do something cool with it, but it wouldn't retain any governance power. And you just get your tribe back out on the other side. There's been some talks of lockups. I think that there was a lot of reaction in the community about that, um, and trying to find ways to remove that to keep the proposal simple, I think makes a lot of sense. And that's one of the ongoing discussions, is what exactly happens in the swap. And I think a nice feature of that would be RGT in, tribe out, trying to keep it simple.
And in terms of, I guess like one area I'm super excited about is just the implications for governance, because like on-chain governance has been around for a while. DeFi governance tokens since Compound about a year and a half ago. But if this proposal were to pass, it'd be the first time where you have really different clear sets of stakeholders coming in from different standpoints. You have tribe token holders, original tribe token holders, um, and you have Rari token holders that are now all aligned under this one banner. But I think it'll be a fascinating experiment to see their different underlying philosophies. I think it will be hopefully result in productive debate and discussion. But I almost think of it as like different political parties that aren't necessarily competing with each other, but working together from different backgrounds to create something great, right? If you think of the end merge entity as like a sovereign nation, the goal for all these political parties would be to work together on increasing the pie for everyone. So I think, yeah, not sure if that's something that you guys agree with.
Now, before I continue, I'd love to share one of my favorite products in crypto with you. Now, whenever I want to trade a token, instead of going to Uniswap, SushiSwap, Bancor one by one to see where I can find the best quote, I just go to PARASWAP to scan for the best price anywhere. Because PARASWAP aggregates all the popular Ethereum dexes and saves me a ton of time and headache in finding where I can trade something for the best price, and lets me trade in one place. Now, the cool thing is they've also integrated with Ledger Live as well, meaning I can now swap at the best prices directly from my Ledger wallet. So seriously, if you're a DeFi trader and you're worried about the security risks of centralized exchanges, but you also don't want to scour dozens of dexes just to find the best price, you have to check out PARASWAP. So head on over to paraswap.io/blockcrunch. I'd also love to take a moment to talk about the Hbar Foundation. Now, if you approached me 1 to 2 years ago, I would tell you I'm really skeptical of layer 1 systems outside of Ethereum. But in the past 12 months, I started to notice billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of users flocking to new blockchains left and right. And then I realized there's an actual market gap being filled. And I always love to support projects who support builders. And one of those projects is Hedera Hashgraph. Hedera is an enterprise-grade public network with its own crypto asset called Hbar. And the Hbar Foundation has launched with an initial budget of over $2 billion to provide entrepreneurs with the funding and ecosystem support needed to quickly build and deploy new applications on the Hedera Hashgraph network. The Hbar Foundation is eager to find builders in DeFi, NFTs, gaming, sustainability, and all sectors. So if you are a builder, a developer, or a creator with an idea, visit hbarfoundation.org to learn more. I'd love to talk a little bit about Notional. If you followed the show for long enough, you know I'm pretty excited about fixed rate products. Notional Finance is the leading fixed rate borrowing and lending protocol, and they've just released a major upgrade. With Notional, you can not only borrow and lend at fixed rates for up to 1 year now, but liquidity providers also have a pretty good opportunity. Thanks to an integration with Compound and a liquidity mining program, LPs can actually earn interest, liquidity fees, and token liquidity mining incentives as well. We've talked with Teddy from Notional recently, and as a happy investor as well, I've been pretty impressed with how the team is building this critical infrastructure that will help onboard the next billion users to DeFi. So you can check it out today at notional.finance/blockcrunch.
I really like that way of framing it. I think that's a really cool way to look at it. I think that for me, it's exactly how you described it in terms of yes, I really hope that these two communities are critically thinking about every proposal. One thing that me and Joey said on the Twitter Spaces the other day is we don't just want people voting yes on every proposal, and that's unfortunately the state of governance today, right? And by bringing two communities with two different perspectives, two different backgrounds, and hopefully many more than just two at one point, is it will develop to a better protocol and a better nation state as in the political agendas, right? So what this means is a better protocol, a better product, better communities, and hopefully actually critical thinking regarding each of the proposals.
Yeah, and I think this only gets better the more like high value incentive aligned contributors you bring in, right? Like people who have high context, high skin in the game, and now are familiar with multiple different protocols from multiple different backgrounds. Now you just have even more sort of like raw material to build this like crazy, explosive, innovative community that doesn't always agree, but you know, I think it will be really important to have these core principles, right, that you hang on to that guide us, like America has, you know, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. Like, I think we're going to need something like that to really guide decision making. But as far as the implementation goes, absolutely, we want to have diverse opinions. We want to have disagreements, and I want to see some proposals failing because that means we're trying crazy stuff, and that people aren't afraid to like, you know, push the boundaries.
Yeah, and I'd love to kind of build off of Derek's question as well, which is it's kind of a maybe amorphous question to a certain extent, but when I think about communities in crypto, it's not always clear what it means, right? For different projects, there's different definitions of communities. For some projects, they are very concerned about price, very concerned about the token. For some projects, they're very aligned towards certain principles, maybe at the expense of like price performance of the token. So, for your respective communities, what would you say are the kind of unifying things or topics or principles? And how would you kind of reconcile the two as Fei and Rari merge?
I think on our end of things, the one guiding principle that you can see throughout all of the Rari community is this idea of like overthrowing the norms, right? Like these previous established lending and borrowing providers that were the kings as we understood it could actually be overthrown, right? The adults in the room could actually be like the same as the children, right? Like this idea of okay, all of these previous norms can actually be updated, replaced, and we can start to question them. I think that's really the guiding principle of crypto holistically, and it's also representative, like largely of the Rari community.
So what you're saying is juice boxes for everyone.
If you say so.
We have hella juice boxes, hella juice boxes. We have a very broad token holder base with a lot of diverse opinions, and people are really trying to just focus on the benefit of the Fei ecosystem, integrations, more Fei in circulation, um, and that has historically taken a huge precedent over the tribe price in certain proposals. And I think V2 definitely strikes a really good balance of incentive alignment between tribe and Fei. And I think that the arc that the protocol's taken has been a really good one. And I think that it's very aligned with the way that the Rari community makes their decisions as well.
Another theme that's come up on the forums is this idea around optionality to exit, right? Like one of the points about crypto is you have an ability to exit a community if you don't agree with its choices, if you don't believe it in anymore. Um, I'm not sure if there's sort of a clear answer right now around how it will work, but how do you guys broadly think about providing, um, let's say the proposal passes, but there's still going to be a subset of people that disagree. How should they? What kind of ability will they have to essentially exit if they desire?
This is an idea that I am, you know, I'm very attracted to ideologically. Like crypto allows for really strong systems that are fluid, and so you can kind of exit if you don't agree. And I think that like it is called rage quit in a lot of different systems, and I've seen how this could be applied to this proposal, and I do think that there's a lot of key stakeholders in the community who also think that this would be a valuable addition, and so we might see it actually find its way into the final proposal. Um, and I think that it would be a really powerful option for the community to be able to say, I don't agree with this new vision because it's a very ambitious vision and it's a very different vision from the prior vision of either protocol on their own. So I think people should definitely have the ability to kind of find their way out and sort of rage quit and possibly redeem their tokens against the protocol assets or something like that.
NGMI.
Yeah, I mean, if you do rage quit, you might not make it, but you know, it's yet to yet to be seen.
Yeah, I love that confidence, man. I love that NGMI meme as well. Just to make this kind of clearer for the stakeholders out there, obviously there's like shorter term stakeholders with shorter term interests, and there are longer term focused people who are very much excited about what products I can use in the future. So, without maybe talking about price too much, can you help us understand for the guys who are more concerned about the shorter term volatility or the shorter term instability when it comes to the two protocols merging? What are the things they can expect? And for the longer term guys, like what are the products they can expect to see? What are the use cases they can be using, in a year's time or 6 months time?
Yeah, so I can only speak from my own perspective here. I'm an extremely long-term builder and an extremely long-term investor. I don't, I think the only two or three times I've ever tried to time the market, I got my ass kicked. So I don't do that. But I do understand that like there's always this constant trade-off between what can we do now and what can we do over a really long time horizon. My bias is always for the long time horizon. So I think it's important for the community to realize kind of where the key stakeholders stand. And this is like, obviously, my tokens are locked for many years. I plan on being around for a long time and contributing value. Um, so as far as what happens in the short term, expect probably some chaos. I mean, this is a unprecedented proposal and an unprecedented mechanism for achieving the goal of merging two tokens. So it's really hard to predict. And you know, for for people more interested in the short term, this is kind of just part of, it's a proposal that's in the realm of proposals that could be proposed. And so it's kind of a curveball, maybe not expected, but something to think about and make decisions accordingly. Um, the long term is going to be really, really epic. I mean, I'll talk about one product that we plan on building together, and then Jay has like a ton of like broader vision for ways that we can collaborate. And um, I think that what makes Fei and Fuse such a great fit is the fact that they're both very focused on DAO utility, right? Like Fuse is a place where a DAO can spin up a market to long, short, earn capital efficiency against their tokens without the bureaucracy of some of these larger lending platforms. And Fei is a stablecoin that has a huge war chest of capital to be able to help scale up early stage products or projects, excuse me, and be able to really provide liquidity for long tail assets and provide services for DAOs and DeFi. It's an extremely DeFi native protocol. And so one idea that I had that I think would be really powerful is to basically allow DAOs to kind of utilize their treasury to provide utility for their token holders in the form of a collaboration with Fuse, where DAOs can mint Fei using their project token and pay a 0% interest, with the caveat that they have to allocate that Fei back into another Fuse pool. And so what that means is that the token is fully collateralized. It's no cost to a token issuer because it's a 0% loan on the first tier. And then the market can kind of have this extra liquidity to borrow Fei and go, maybe lever long on their token or get some capital efficiency. And this could be done in a much more permissionless way than Fei has currently been seeding Fuse pools. So it's really like a huge unlock for DAOs in particular to be able to provide utility for their token holder base. And we're still working on the name for this on our community call. We called it Fei Bootstrap. I think it's a fine name, but I think we're going to come up with something cooler than that. And regardless of the name, it's going to be a really epic protocol in terms of unlocking DAO capital efficiency and utility for native tokens.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Fei Bootstrap. I think for me, short term, the short term speculators and everybody inside the ecosystem, they can watch history be made, right? And like they can either be a part of it or they can go and sell their bags and watch it, right? And I think what's much more interesting is being a part of this history being made, right? And being able to look back in 5 years and say, hell yeah, I was a part of the first DeFi DAO merger, and really share that excitement. And that's part of the long term as well, is like all this chaos that Joey mentioned, right? All this excitement, craziness, all this stuff is going to lead to some crazy cool products. Fei Bootstrap is the first of many that we will work on together, right? Like me and Joey, like literally pitch this product, like just days after starting this collaboration. It's like, imagine what we can do in a month, in 2 months, and now in a year or even 5 years. And that's really what's super exciting to me, is I don't know where this is going to go. I can't paint the roadmap for the next 5 years, but I'm fully confident in the brains and the token holders and all of the people who have staked interest in both of these DAOs. And that's what's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, Jay and I are both extremely generative, and we have a bunch of creative community members and teams, and our projects, our communities are very willing to push the boundaries and willing to do cool things. I think we'll see probably some really aggressive joint L2 deployments together, where Fei and Fuse can kind of like bootstrap each other's utility on these other chains and liquidity as well. We can see that Fei has the power to kind of help provide trustless oracles on Fuse through embedded TWAPs and things like Balancer or other exchanges. Um, and we've already gotten so many DMs from teams that we love collaborating with saying, "Oh my gosh, like I want to do this cool thing with you and Rari if the merge goes through. I want to like build this product." Like there's like the set of integrations that you can do with any one DeFi project is big, but if you have one of the best permissionless lending platforms plus one of the most capitalized decentralized stable coins out there, you could do some pretty awesome stuff with that collaboration alone. And then as we bring in more DAOs into this under this umbrella, the number of products and utilities are just going to be truly mind blowing. And like Jay said, it's impossible to even predict where we'll be in a year, let alone in like 4 or 5. So definitely a ride that I want to be a part of.
Just listening to this conversation and reading the forum posts, it's clear that there's super obvious product and future roadmap synergies. But the more exciting and sort of interesting part almost is as you mentioned, Joey, earlier, like what happens when you provide the proper skin in the game and incentives to people that work well together. Like roadmaps will change, products will change, but if you start with incentives and just have everyone have a shared outcome, then that's really the most important thing. Um, I guess like to anyone else, any other builders, founders, creators listening to this podcast and thinking about the same thing, like how do I work more closely with another project? Should I do a token swap? Should I do a merger? Um, like how should they think of what advice would you give them if you could tell them anything?
I feel like there definitely is not one generalized template for this. I think treasury swaps are completely overrated, right? I think that DeFi treasuries and everything are so massive that the scale of any swap isn't going to, I mean, it is going to make an inconsequential difference to any of these projects today. Obviously, smaller scaled projects doing large scale swaps, maybe it makes sense, but then you're losing significant skin in the game. So I don't think that there is a clear solution for anybody. But what I do expect is that if this merger successfully goes through, I expect a lot of people following suit soon after, right? Especially as there's this looming bear market that everybody's talking about. I think that we'll see the season of mergers and acquisitions, and I think that's going to be super cool to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, like it sort of is more important about what you like, how your community operates and what kind of your vision is. And I think Fei and Rari are both extremely like kind of creative, visionary, like long term, want to like just like build really cool products and see how we can push the boundaries in DeFi. And it's really don't it's not as much about the products themselves, although Fei and Fuse are kind of a perfect fit. It's so much more about the like values alignment and finding people that you really trust and can collaborate with. Because it's really like, I'm not gonna lie, it's scary to like bring in a whole nother community to your project that you know it's been going the way it is. Like, it's not a conservative move, that's for sure. So I think to do a token merge, it's a leap of faith. It's one I'm totally down to take with the Rari team. And yeah, I mean, I do think that like it's going to create some really interesting new projects that follow suit, like Jay said. After this, should be should be really really cool to see the way that DeFi combines and recombines. Something that Dan Elitzer always says, actually, that I think is really fascinating, is that he talks about how when projects spin out of larger DAOs, like you have Lyra spinning out of Synthetics and Fiat DAO kind of spinning out of Barnbridge, not really as much, but like you have these like projects that are kind of spin outs. Um, and then the market caps like stay the same. It's like a totally value generative event, you know? And like I think that seeing like projects combining, splitting off, combining, splitting off in some interesting ways. Like, it's the world of tokens. Let's experiment more. And I think like I listened to the I listened to some of the like Dragonfly and Robot Ventures on a Twitch stream yesterday, and they were just talking about how there's like 4 or 5 different possible projects that you could fund that are specifically focused on DeFi M&A or like token spinoffs. And so yeah, we're so early, and I know that's such a like tired meme, but we are so early.
Yeah, and I think this is such a great note to kind of wrap this conversation on as well, especially as I'm sure a lot of people listening, if they're founders, they're thinking about, how do I work closer with other smart founders that are building products that might be complementary to my product. So for the people out there who are kind of just starting on this journey, what advice would you have for them? What are some of the lessons you've learned so far from kind of navigating this extremely ambitious governance proposal?
Like, do you mean with regard to just being a founder, or specifically doing crazy things like token merges?
Yeah, I think just in terms of anyone who's pushing forward any extremely ambitious governance proposal, what were the biggest kind of lessons that you guys learned?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say there's two really clear lessons. One is that um, you know your project and you know your goals like better than anyone else. And so I think really just like being comfortable in your decision making and knowing that you're not going to get it right, you're not going to get it perfect, and you're going to make like a lot of loud people angry every time you do something, every time you move in public. And just be totally comfortable with that. Like, I've learned this the hard way, and I've become so much stronger for it. Like, you're not going to make everyone happy, and you're probably not even going to make most people happy sometimes. Like, but if you have a vision, um, you should stick to that vision, and rally around the people who see things the way that you do, and keep a really open mind to change course when maybe when there is pushback, right? So it's this give and take of doing high risk things in a high risk environment. And the second thing I'd say that is really valuable is that, especially other builders, but in general, there's a lot of people in this space who want to support you. And if you're a founder trying to do something ambitious, like, please DM me on Twitter or find me in Discord. Like, I want to talk to you, because there's this bond that only founders can share, and the wisdom and support that you get is like, I'm so grateful for all the founders who've been there for me. Robert Leschner, Jing from Optimism, and so many more, like Jay. We've been through a lot together, um, and just having founders who you can kind of vibe with and provide you advice is really, really valuable.
I think for me, the biggest thing is creating a strong support network, right? Like I really like what Joey said at the end in terms of like this support system of founders. I'd go even a step further and just say a support system in general, right? Pitching these crazy ideas that seem even crazy to DeFi is difficult. Going and creating DeFi products, even just working in DeFi is very, very stressful holistically. So I think creating a proper support system so that way you can take yourself out of DeFi when you need to, so that way you can sustain yourself over a long term and you don't get burnt out too fast is really important. And then the second thing is in proposing these crazy ideas and in proposing all of just in innovating in DeFi in general. I think that the biggest thing I can say is memes are at the center of it all, right? And memes are what create narrative and do a lot of the magic that we can't even describe. So I think doubling down on that, being able to really understand culture in that creative of a way is extremely important.
Absolutely. And as we come to a close, for people who want to engage with this governance proposal, who want to keep up to date with what's going on right now, or even want to vote on it, what are the channels that they should go to?
Yeah, so for this proposal in particular, you should definitely check out the forum, the Tribe forum, the Rari forum, as well as the respective Discord communities. And there's been some conversations on Twitter as well, but I would say the primary conversations are happening on the forums. I think Jason can probably drop some links in the description.
Yes, definitely. And I'd like to once again applaud you guys for doing something so ambitious. And I want to thank Derek for hosting the show as well. Derek, any closing thoughts here and any shout outs to your own podcast too?
No, I mean, I guess like this is a super interesting case study, I think, for the entire industry. I mean, just the process of coming to consensus around one of the most complex um, governance decisions I've seen possibly ever. I think just like the process around coming to consensus around that, figuring out specific details, like hearing stakeholder feedback and iterating, like that will be super valuable just for everyone to see and understand how do we how do we improve that process, what needs to be changed, and and just iterating on that model. And then if the proposal passes, I think it will also be super interesting to see like how the merger plays out in practice, right? If there's if Joey and Jai disagree on a product decision or a roadmap decision, how is it resolved? Does it go to an on-chain vote? Is it discussed in the forums? Like, I certainly don't know the answer to these questions. I think these will be emergent over time, and yeah, it'll be fascinating to see like how it actually plays out in practice. I suspect that there will be some similarities and lessons that I think we can all draw on from like books and historical examples, but there will definitely be lots of new lessons, right? Because of how crypto is structured, because of the new incentives. So yeah, I think most of all, just like super excited to um, follow this saga and probably revisit this in 6 months to a year if it passes and see like what are some of the major takeaways and lessons that we've all learned.
Yeah, I wonder how many sub DAOs will be a part of the tribe in a year.
Yeah, that'd be crazy to see like a massive like just Unimind in DeFi where you just have multiple protocols kind of as sub DAOs of like Fei. That would be like a crazy idea. But that's for another episode. And Derek, I think I'm really interested in what you guys are doing at Reverie as well when it comes to governance, but we're going to save that for another interview as well. So I just want to thank you guys for hopping on the show and thank you for the listeners for always tuning in.
Yeah, thanks a ton for having us, Jason. I also want to have a huge thank you to everyone who's participating in this proposal: GFX Labs, Llama DAO, Reverie, all the governance participation, and the Rari community. It's an honor to even like make a proposal this crazy and to see it have like a chance of succeeding and turning out to be something incredible for DeFi. It's cool to be a part of, and I'm grateful and here for all of it.